Too much expectation on this movie. Didn't live up to it. But JrNTR, your acting, your presence was brilliant. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Buddies and Blockbuster. I'm your host, AJ, and I just came back from Devara Part 1. It was a first day, not first show, but probably the seventh show in Texas. Boy, oh boy, the amount of shows that this movie had is insane. I've never seen so many shows for a Indian movie here. Even during the Bahubali times, I've not seen the whole. When I opened the app, it was just Devara in this theater. It was a cinema. I think it's over 30 shows. It's also in the AMs, a couple of them, which is so surprising. The hype is definitely real, but unfortunately, it's story which kind of pulls down this movie a bit more compared to the performance. Let's dig into this because, like every JrNTR fan, I was looking forward to this movie. I'm not a super fan, but I really like his acting skills and stuff like that. So let's talk about the performances first. We have JrNTR as Devara as the lead, but he also plays his son lookalike. I think he is the show stealer throughout the whole movie. As of when he's on screen, you just love it, especially the first half. The way how his character is introduced, the dialogue delivery, and the elevation in a couple of scenes is just pure joy. You will howl, you'll whistle. It was kind of a packed crowd, and there was this one super fan screaming. He lost his voice, I think. It was those scenes where even though if he's just standing or just walking, those components was shot in the most brilliant way. Of course, fight scenes is something that I need to give a shout out to because the action sequences, whether it's the sword fighting or the knives, they're just straight up beating the hell out of each other. Those components was done well, and a couple of shots that was showcased in the night, especially near the sea and basically the Red Sea. He owns the whole seashore, which I'm going to talk about. Those shots were really good. I also need to give shout out to Saif Ali Khan. He is the villain, the antagonist, the most part of this movie. I wish they would have utilized him a bit more compared to what I've seen, even though he has a lot of screen time. The way how they used him based on the story was a bit low. Those were the main components, and of course, Anirudh in his musical score and the background music was pretty good. The only song everybody knows this, Chuttumale was awesome. That whole song sequence, whenever it shows up, I lost my mind. Janhvi was beautiful as always. This is where I'm going to talk about the bad points because my expectation was obviously high with the performances and they delivered. Where it fails is the story. It's directed by Portala Siva. He's done great movies before like Janta Garage and stuff. It starts off with Ajay, who's a cop finding a specific criminal, gets himself in part of tracking him down. He gets lured into this village which is close to the seashore. In order to track him, it's more of a disguise towards shipping a couple of goods and illegal components from one place to the other. He encounters Prakash Raj, played as Singapore in the movie. He basically narrates the story of, okay, what takes place in this village and what's the backstory of it and how things were. And nobody just ventures out in the sea because there is this one person, whoever tries to do something illegal and harm to the village or just bring harm to that area itself by venturing out in the sea, bad things happen. The backstory is basically about Devara, who's part of this generation of folks where 3 to 4 tribes, and they've been known to be sea warriors. Back in the day, a lot of battles and wars were won with those tribes, and that's passed on to the sons. One of the tribe is Devara. You have Saif Ali Khan as Baira, who's kind of the head of another tribe, but they all kind of work together. It's kind of changed because back in the day we had a lot of wars happening, but now they venture out as pirates in a way and helping out a couple of folks in getting their consignments. So they're basically going to these pirating ships, gathering those goods, and that's how they make their living. But the way how they pirate or steal these goods, that sequence of how you steal those components, that's something unique. I've not seen that before. I like the idea of how they conducted those components. Flow of events, of course, there's a lot of conveniences. You just got to roll with it. And soon after, Devara, who's pretty much the master of the sea, and he knows he has that touch. For the most part, he's the most powerful one. They have this tradition in the village where the best fighter also wins the most amount of weapons. A ritual piece where whoever gets the most amounts of weapons, that village kind of prospers, and they have it on a yearly basis. The twist here, I'm not spoiling much, is they realize that these goods or illegal components that they're stealing falls into the wrong hands, and in turn creates a lot of bad stuff, which I don't want to spoil. And Devara realizes that and basically changes his mind of saying, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna just live our lives in the most good way possible and follow the right direction moving forward. If you need to go fishing, if you need to do other normal jobs which doesn't harm innocent people, you're gonna go on that path. And anybody who tries to do anything else illegal, you're basically going to get an ass whooping. Of course, the other tribes, they hate that idea because they're making a lot of money with these other assignments. There's a drift between it. As you're predicting it, they try to kill him, and there's a lot of battles going on just to eliminate Devara. He tries his best to kind of correct these folks, give them a lot of chances to, hey, this is not the way. We're actually killing a lot of innocent people by doing what we're doing, right? But folks are greedy, continues. The story goes in a predictable way, and the first half just showcases that character arc of this is how the tribes are, this is what's going on in that village, and this is what they're doing. It leads on to the second half. The second half definitely takes a huge dip, and at some points, honestly, I felt bored as well. It was a bit draggy. Keep in mind, this is a 2 hours and 50-minute movie. There is also an angle about the son as we move forward in a couple of years. He's kind of picturized as the opposite of Devara, who's not this powerful and optimist leader. He's more of on the youth side, who's humble, who's a bit down to earth, also scared in a way to get into violence and stuff like that. There's definitely kind of a clash between the father and son, which I don't want to reveal much because that is essentially the climax of this movie. And I've got to be honest, this is literally Bahubali vibes here. And this is why I said it's predictable for the most part, because the expectations were so high for the story to also back up the performances of these actors. It didn't live up to the hype. This is my opinion. I know there's a lot of JrNTR fans. I know you're looking forward to this and you might want to kill me. But in my opinion, I feel the storyline was, yeah. That's my reaction, because they should have either gone many routes, which they didn't take. If it's a 2 hours and 50-minute movie, you've got to make sure that you keep up the same tone that you have in the first half, even in the second half. You can have a couple of dips. For the most part of the second half, it was boring. And yes, we have an epic climax at the end with like a fight scene. I've told this a billion times. This is a high budget movie. If you can't get the CGI or VFX right, you all have seen the shark scene. It's so cringy. The whole jumping piece that you've seen in the trailer, that's okay. That's, if you like it, great. The dude was playing Aquaman and riding the shark like a horse. At the end of it, I was left like kind of disappointed, mainly because more of the hype, the dependence on the actors only to have the stellar performances. I think the main piece here, JrNTR, carries this whole movie. Without him, I don't think this movie would even do numbers that it's going to do in the first week. If the story was as strong as the cast, this would have been like an epic movie and the hype would have been met. Janhvi Kapoor, if you're expecting like more stuff from her, I'm sorry to break the news. Don't. She's just there for a short period of time. But I like the vibe she brought in. Bond, or even her sarcastic and joking timing that she had, was pretty good. If you're a strong JrNTR fan, you will definitely love his presence, his elevation, and the background score, plus all the action sequences that's there. Those are the highlights of the movie. Aside from that, if you're expecting too much in terms of storyline, don't go with that piece, because it's predictable and you can see what's going to happen. As keep in mind, this is part one, there is part two coming. And in terms of a rating, I feel unfortunately I'll be in the 2.5 range for this. But what do you think about Devara part one? Let me know. Maybe you guys loved it more than me. Let me know in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share.